Do you ever feel like an imposter? Do you feel like you're faking it till you hopefully one day make it in your business goals and dreams? If so, then you're in the right place. Jessie, Lauren, and Mel are three besties who love discussing all things business and side hustle, all to help encourage you to push beyond imposter syndrome. We share real life learnings in real time to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Expect positive vibes, women supporting women, and a business education that you didn't learn in school. This is Imposter Women.
Hello, and welcome to Imposter Women, the show that helps you tackle your life and business goals unapologetically and with confidence. I'm your host, Melissa Hussong, and I'm here with my beautiful co-hosts, Jessica Linda Gallo and Lauren Troxtall. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Mastermind, what it is, how to make one, how to achieve your goals with your friends, and basically create the life of your dreams. And we are so excited to talk about this episode because in so many ways, the Mastermind is really how this all began, how we started meeting a year and a half ago, and how this podcast came to be. But before we jump into all of that good stuff, we want to talk about the quick round of wins for us this week and give updates on our business. So I'm so excited to hear what you two have been up to. So what's been going on? How can we celebrate your wins this week?
Yeah. Well, I'll dive in. So I have a win to share and a not so win to share, which is okay, right? That's part of the journey. So, you're along for the ride with us here, listeners. So the win for this week for us, it is tax season as we're recording this in the US. So my husband and I did our first annual filing for Gallo Family Homes. That was very exciting. As exciting as taxes can be, I suppose. We also did, in addition to our tax filing, we did our first annual report to the Illinois Secretary of State. So I know every state's a little different with their reporting and filing needs, but it's due every year in Illinois. So you have to report who your board members are, that your mission, your purpose is still the same, general activities, stuff like that. And it's got a small fee. I think it was like $75 to file for the year. So we got our filing done. We got our taxes turned in. So lots of quote unquote fun administrative firsts for Gallo Family Homes this week. So that was a win to share. And then thank you. Yeah, I know it's something that can be a little scary, I think, in any business is figuring that out. Our not so win is that last episode we were talking about wins. I was saying we were so excited. We're just a couple weeks from closing on our rental property that we rehabbed. And that was all true a week ago. And just about a day ago, we got a call from our realtor saying that the sale fell through on the house. So her words were, once every 500 transactions, something like this happens, but it happens. So our buyer decided to go buy an RV and their financing fell through. So mental note for everyone, if you're buying a piece of property, do not make large financial transactions or changes to your credit while purchasing a piece of property. But they did. And so their financing fell through. So we now don't have a buyer on our house, which is a little bit precarious because we're juggling a couple of real estate transactions right now, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in upcoming episodes. So we are holding our breath and putting lots of faith in our realtor that she's going to find a new buyer very quickly and we're going to get it closed. So that's where we're at in our business.
Wow, yeah, just opening space for something better to come along, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, who knows what'll happen? But we're gonna believe that. And it's a learning experience. Like nothing is gonna go from A to Z 100% the way you planned. So this is just a reminder that sometimes business and life has its own plans and it's going to be fine. It doesn't mean we did something wrong.
Absolutely. Love that attitude. Yeah, you just have to go with the flow and accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
a good thing it's still a seller's market right now. So fingers crossed
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's still so little inventory on the market. So it's still going to be an amazing home for someone.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd say over on my end, the big stuff is I think I mentioned last time that I was a little bit on the back burner. The business was a little bit on the back burner right now, but I am closing up my current position that I'm in. So I only have a couple weeks left there, and I'm really just wrapping things up, and I'm packing the house because we are moving in a couple weeks. And so it's kind of that everything's closing up and job searching for the next job. And then simultaneously, I still am looking at stuff, kind of doing more of that research and development at the same time. And then really looking forward to being able to explore more of those options once the move is done and things settle back down. So
Lauren, I have to call you out though, because in the midst of all this, you're still working on things. You were just telling us you're like redoing furniture to flip. What?
yeah.
Fill us in.
Yeah, I have a lot of different hobbies. So I think that's one of the things, as we'll talk more about in different episodes, is I have a lot of different hobbies. I enjoy doing a lot of different things, and what things can be turned into businesses, what could be small side hustles. So like I love creating candles that eventually could be a business, but I'm really enjoying learning power tools and how to, sand furniture and repaint it, and I could potentially flip that stuff. So we'll see. There's lots of different smaller side hustles to play with and dabble with, and we'll see out of all these different ideas what really takes and what option I go with.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, so for with me this week, the big win, like Jesse, was filing my business taxes. This is the first year that I've had an LLC, and it was a fun learning experience. I never thought that I would say that about doing taxes, but I have definitely grown to enjoy it, especially when you see that you've actually created something and you have a little bit of income to put in and you have lots of expenses to put in, and just making the numbers kind of come out on paper, and it makes it more real. And it also, side note, has been a really good lesson to make sure that I am like more on top of all of that, so I don't have to do it a year in retrospect. I can like do it as I like in real time, which I have been doing. And then the other thing that I did was I enrolled in a certification course. So this was a coaching certification course that has, I think, 5 modalities that is going to basically help me serve clients better and kind of access those tricky habits and beliefs and help clients reprogram that stuff just so they can create lasting impact in their life. And that's what I'm really about. So I've been working through that, and it's been really fun this week.
I'm curious, since both of you just did your taxes, did you do them independently? Did you work with an accountant? How did you both go about your taxes?
Mine are pretty easy right now. I'm going to be looking at Mel a year from now because we haven't had significant transactions through the business, and our rental income was not nestled under the business. That's something we're going to change in the future. When we started our rental property, we didn't have our LLC. So that was just coming into our personal bank accounts and taxes. So for the business, everything was pretty much zero. And then our rental income was still on our personal taxes. We still used an accountant. I swear by it. I did our rental income taxes, our taxes with rental income on it 1 year. I came very close to accurate, but no cigar. I did not quite get it. I did not quite calculate the depreciation right. It's been so much better for us to use a professional. But next year, Mel, I'm going to be looking at you like, okay, all the tips.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think this has definitely been the most complicated taxes I've done in previous years. I've just had one W-2, which is fine. You kind of put in the data, like the numbers for the W-2, and most of the time it kind of auto populates. But with 2021, I think I had two W-2s, and then self-employed kind of paperwork, which I think is a 1099, and then some investment stuff, and then my business stuff. So it all comes on layer. There are layers to it when you are doing this data entry. And for everyone listening, my background is in data analysis and numbers and economics. So like I kind of have a natural tendency for this. I didn't wake up doing my taxes.
Wouldn't that
So,
be nice?
but honestly, Jesse, I love that point that you are just going to get a professional to do it. And I think for, the price that they charge compared to probably the 6 hours maybe that I put in is like worthwhile.
Yeah.
For sure. But I'm glad that now that I know how to do it, so that, when I do outsource it, I know what I'm looking for.
I totally echoed what you said about record keeping too. I feel like we could do an entire, not very sexy, but an entire episode about like record keeping and bookkeeping, because like talk about imposter syndrome. The first time you
Yeah.
open up a QuickBooks file, it is like, what am I doing? So it's definitely an art form to learn over time. And I feel like every year, every tax season, every like financial report, I get a little bit better and I learn something else I should have put in a file and saved myself 2 hours of hunting for later.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's all about like categorizing it correctly as well in QuickBooks the first time and taking a photo of the receipt. I love that idea. We could totally do that at a later date because like I'd be all over it. Love it. Awesome. Okay, so like I mentioned at the top of the episode, we're going to be talking about masterminds today and building community, and essentially what does it look like and what does it take to help each other achieve our goals. And we have gathered a couple thoughts on this topic because we've been through it, like I said, for a year and a half now. So we really just wanted to dive in and let's talk about, firstly, obviously, what is a mastermind? So for everyone listening, how would we describe a mastermind? And basically, what do we talk about in our mastermind?
Mel, I feel like I'm going to turn that question back on you to start us off with. You are definitely the expert in what it is. I'll pipe in after you.
Okay, so all right, that's fair. I'll start us off here and answer my own question. A mastermind is really a concept that came out of a book. It was written in 1937. You may have heard of it. It's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. Now, this book is pretty well known in like the personal development world, personal development circles. It's on a lot of people's like top must-read books list. It certainly changed my life unmistakably. But Napoleon Hill talks about a mastermind being a weekly meeting at least once a week. It can be more, of like-minded individuals. So these like-minded individuals meet and they discuss goals, basically progress on the previous week, and we keep each other accountable. So it is specifically goal-oriented, and this is important. It's an important distinction between like what you would maybe think of like a regular networking meetup or like coffee with business friends or with anyone. So it's not just a casual catch up. And yeah, I think that's kind of high level, like what a mastermind is. It can have some formality to it. So like I said, you're meeting regularly. The expectation is, that everyone kind of keeps to that commitment, and it is a commitment. You commit to showing up for yourself, you commit to showing up for your friends, and basically bringing your full self to that and contributing freely knowledge, resources, time, basically to help others. And then with the idea that, we all together create this new mind collectively known as the mastermind. And together we have unique insights and thoughts and idea sharing that we wouldn't get by ourselves.
That was such a good description, Mel. Thank you for kicking us off with that. One thing I know when we started the mastermind, or when you kind of had this idea or concept, one confusion I had was that there is a company that has kind of branded Mastermind. So I think it's important to kind of separate the two. If anybody has been hit by those ads, I know I have been many times, like celebrities run masterminds or like share expertise. And those are great too, but mastermind really is a concept more than anything. And that's, I think, important to understand. And the topics that you talk about can vary pretty vastly. We talk a lot about like goals, challenges, wins. We even brainstorm. So a lot of times, where in a typical situation, you would just say, I'm struggling with X, and you would leave it at that. In the mastermind setting, we would say, hey, I'm struggling with this concept. Who's dealt with this? Who has ideas? Who can help me? And we take that time to like brainstorm with one another. So it is a little bit different than just a conversation. We certainly celebrate each other's wins, but I think that support is what's so unique about the mastermind.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think I've been doing this mastermind with Mel because Mel first approached me about a year and a half ago, and I'd had to look it up and figure out what a mastermind was, and Mel gave me some different resources. But one of the things that, as we do it weekly, and we've been doing it for a year and a half, pretty regularly. I think maybe we've missed like one or two periodically. And each of us takes notes so we can kind of keep the conversation on track, and we can look back and see what each person was supposed to work on, how their progress is. And it's also really fun when you have that notebook to look back, and like if someone's having a bad day, you can kind of look back at the notes and be like, oh, but look how far you've come from this point. And not only is it just business ideas as well, but it's also a little bit of lifestyle. If you're having health and wellness issues, it could be business, it could be anything that's really going on in your day-to-day life. It could be family matters that are impacting your thoughts, your beliefs, and different things that you would use to move forward with your business. Maybe some self-limiting beliefs and how we can break those down together, and really push each other to strive toward excellence. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that point too, that we talk about things outside of business. So, I think Lauren, and I was thinking about this morning. Do you remember when we were first texting? So Lauren and I used to text like about business stuff, and we would like be like, oh, I saw this, and I'd like send you a screenshot, and you'd like send me a link to something, and we'd be like, oh, cool. And then I just started thinking about it more, and I was like, no, I kind of want to talk to you like on the regular about this stuff, because like this is a like-minded soul who I think we could accomplish amazing things together. So it can be super, super grassroots, just like that. No one needs permission to start a mastermind. It is as simple as, reaching out to some friends. But what I wanted to make that point about was that, Lauren, when you say talking about health and just that community, I think some of the masterminds that have helped me the most have been when we've talked about health things that we're going through and being really vulnerable. And yeah, I just love that we can all show up as our authentic selves in that space without judgment, and problem solve and troubleshoot things that are affecting all of us. But the conversations or the issues that I am bringing to the mastermind aren't necessarily unique to me. So to share those insights and those experiences on a larger scale has been really, really life-changing for me personally.
And I think it's really beautiful too, because no one is just a business person. Like no one is just a worker. We're all people. And like you said it so beautifully, like it impacts other parts of our life, Lauren. Like the things we're dealing with in our health or in our mental health are going to impact how we're doing in our business and what we're working on. And sometimes it's going to cause goals to shift. Like sometimes we're going to have to say like, okay, time out. I got to deal with this health issue to really move forward productively. So it's really nice to be in a situation where you can embrace like being a whole person and working on yourself as a whole.
Yeah, and really to echo off that, I recall there's just been several times where we have a goals and we're feeling really ambitious one week, and then life throws things at you, and you're like, listen, I could not get to those goals last week, but here's where I'm at. Here's where I need your support. And how do you help me get through this part so I can go back and accomplish those goals? And that's been really just a beautiful thing to see each person just show up authentically, as you've mentioned multiple times, Mel, and just be themselves. And then we can really help each other so that we can reach those goals, because there's always setbacks and things to move forward with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just so real, like that is life, and we can't always get to what we want to get to, and having that space and that understanding, but still that accountability to be like, I'm here to help you when you're ready to get back on track. Absolutely. Okay, so how do we start up a mastermind? So for everyone listening and their kind of ears are like, their interest is piqued, their ears are kind of listening, what would we recommend would be a great way to start up a mastermind? What would be kind of those first steps?
I think the first thing is thinking about what you want those conversations to look like. So for our mastermind, like Lauren said, it's not super narrow. So we talk about whatever needs to be talked about, whatever those goals are, whether they're business, personal, health, whatever. But we also knew each other coming into our mastermind. So one thing I was thinking about is if I were to start a group or be in a group where I didn't know anyone, it might be helpful to select a more narrow niche, or to make sure people are comfortable with that amount of vulnerability in a new space. So some mastermind groups are more narrow in topic. So some mastermind groups, it might only be about business, or it might only be about personal life, or might only be about health and wellness. So I think that's the first thing to think about is like, who are you bringing into the group? What's that conversation going to look like? And what do you want it to look like? What do you want to be getting out of it every week? If it's just business, that's great too. And if you want that more holistic approach, you can design that.
I think another thing in thinking about like how to even approach people, back to Mel's point of when we first were chatting and we were just sending each other resources. So maybe there's someone in your life that like you're in a book club with, or some at work that you just kind of keep tending to bounce resources off of each other. That's a great way to just approach and say, hey, like I want to dive deeper into these resources and do the self-development work, and see, would you be interested? And, Mel and I started out with just the two of us. And then we started chatting with Jesse and Carolyn. And then the group kind of grew. And, we've considered, do we expand? Do we not? Like, what's feasible? How much time does everybody have? So those are all different things to really consider, and like the frequency as well.
Yeah, one thing Mel did really well, I know when I entered the group, was just also laying the expectation that a mastermind is different than catching up with friends. So the topics look really different than it would if you were just catching up. So it's not necessarily, oh, here's what's going on in my week, or oh, here's this drama. It is much more focused than that. And so we may catch up outside of mastermind, or we may send those more like friend texts. But I think Mel did a really great job of setting the expectation that, okay, there's 4 people, we have 1 hour, everyone has about 15 minutes. We need to use that time wisely. So let's make sure we are sharing those wins and sharing those challenges. And like, if there are things, if we just need a session to complain, that's probably not the place for the mastermind. We all know that's needed in life, but that's a different use of time. So I know the expectation setting was really important, I think, in our group, really being productive.
Yeah, I remember when I sent those emails out and I was like, I hesitated a bit, and I was like, I just want this wording to be right, because I don't want it to be like coming off as it's going to be like a hard ass, or like I'm going to be like running this super strict meeting and no one's allowed to speak freely and stuff. But I was also like, there does need to be structure, because I love all of you and I could talk for hours about how your weekend was, but I'm not sure that's necessarily going to further us along in like where we want to be, 5-10 years down the line. And I still, to be real, I still feel like a hard ass sometimes, because I'm always like watching the clock, and I'm trying to not talk too much, and I could probably relax in that sense. But There are slightly different ways of running masterminds, and I'd be interested in sort of how you feel about the structure of it all. So how we do it for everyone listening, we have 1 hour Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. And there's four of us, so we do 15 minutes each. And then within those 15 minutes, we'll kind of start with like wins, sort of how this podcast starts, like what was some successes from the week. And then we'll talk about what we're going through that week, challenges or hurdles that we've overcome. And then we'll call out specifically what we need help with. So at that point, I'll say, I'm really keep having this barrier in my business. Like, what am I missing here? What perspectives do you have or resources? And then at the very end, we'll talk high level goals that we want to commit to for the next week. So how do you two feel about sort of that structure? Do you think it's helped you, or would you change it in any way?
Mel, I just want to second what you were just saying earlier about watching the clock, because I also feel like I'm the stickler too, and I'm like, I'm the only one doing this. And I sit there and I like tap, I'm like, uh-oh, we're hitting the 15-minute mark, and I need to
Totally.
let go of that, because I think it kind of takes away from really being fully present with the moment, but also being present and being aware of that time. But it's something that I really enjoy, because we could talk for hours about everything under the moon, but having that structure, and knowing how it's set up in our time frame, I feel like that's enough time to really dig deep into some of the issues, but yet not going for hours and hours into the issues. Is kind of giving that uh, overall approach to it, and then being able to have enough information that we could support and share resources with one another.
Honestly, I think that structure is probably even more important when you are in a group of friends or people that had pre-existing relationships to the mastermind. And I'm sure it's similar when, like, as the mastermind goes on and people who didn't know each other get to know each other, it becomes easier to get off track. So I think the structure is super helpful, and it does keep you from kind of spiraling into like just wanting to complain about something, because truly, like, that has value in our lives, but the mastermind is a different value than that. So it does really kind of force, and I think it forces people to prepare before a meeting a little bit and think through, like, okay, what are the wins I want to share? What did I accomplish from last week? What didn't I accomplish from last week? Are the things people can help me with? Because like Lauren mentioned, we all have a notebook and we're keeping track of like what people are doing. And so we know other people are also knowing when we didn't accomplish something, which that accountability can be really powerful when there's, like, for me, when I'm dragging my feet on something or when it's something that I know is going to be tough to get to. I also know everybody else has it written down that I didn't get to it. So I also have to kind of think through that ahead of time, like, oh man, really, what was my block? Like, do I need help with this? So I think the structure does force some preparation that causes everybody to get a little bit more out of it. So I personally really like it.
A question for both of you, in just doing your research and looking into other masterminds and such. Do you know how big are masterminds usually? How many people are usually in them? And is it, because if you had 10 people, an hour might not be enough time. So that would really change your structure. If you're doing a business one, maybe it's a certain topic that everyone comes and talks to. Or have you either of you experienced anything else or read anything else about that for our listeners?
I think in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill kind of talks about the magic number, and I can't think of it. The number 6 is coming to mind, or 10 is coming to mind, if you wanted to keep it within an hour. But I guess it really depends on sort of the time commitment. But I agree with you. If we even had 5 people, it would be, condensing, condensing, condensing. Having said that, I have been in the US here, there is a networking group called BNI. I forget what it's, Business Networking International, maybe. I've been to one of those as a guest. It is a paid networking program, and that sort of functions like a mastermind. There are like endless people that can be in it, but everyone talks for like 2 minutes. And for me, that's just like not enough to talk about, your business or kind of get ideas flowing. So that's probably the only other experience I've had with like a large group.
Yeah, and I know like in the book he does say that one or more people can be a mastermind, which I don't know how one person would be a mastermind. So I'm going to lean to the or more being the important part there. But I don't know what that magic number is either. And I know later in this episode, we're going to talk about other types of like communities that you can surround yourself with. So I think I'll probably have more thoughts on that there. But one thing that I definitely think about in forming a mastermind or forming kind of an accountability group like this that's important is also finding people who are going to be willing to challenge each other in a friendly, kind way. But there are definitely times where Mel and Lauren, I can like picture moments where both of you have done this to say, like, okay, but wait, have you thought about it this way? Or I know you haven't tried this thing. Why? And I think while that can be hard to do for some people and some personality types, like that's part of the value is to have someone like challenge you, but they're challenging you because they want you to succeed. No one in a mastermind group should be challenging you just to watch you squirm. The goal should always be to see you get to your goal. And if someone is saying like, hey, I'm going to push you a little bit here, hey, I'm going to challenge you to think deeper, it's for your own good. So it comes from a positive place. So I think just selecting people and creating a community where you can do that is really key.
Yeah, for sure. That everyone speaks from a place of love and support and non-competition. I think that's so key, Jessie. That is really, really a big one. And the other thing that I just kind of wanted to plug about our group that I think a reason why it works so well is we all have different backgrounds. Like, yes, we went to grad school together. Yes, we were in the same grad program. But within that grad program, we all had different majors. And collectively, we all have like pretty different lived life experiences, which I think is beautiful. And I think the fact that we all have a different background is valuable in the sense that we're bringing different perspectives to the mastermind. So maybe like I'm thinking in numbers, or I'm thinking in analytical ways or something, or a different way than how Lauren would approach a problem compared to how Jessie would approach the problem. And I think that is like incredibly valuable. So if you are thinking about putting a mastermind together and you have a couple friends in mind, just consider bringing different faces and different voices to the table, whether or not they look like you or they have a different background or different qualifications. That diversity can be really amazing. Okay, so let's talk about what other support groups that we've been part of, and let's just kind of talk about what the groups were and how they've helped you.
I'm ready to dig into this.
Take it away, Jessie.
So in my W-2 life, I run a chamber of commerce, which I think I mentioned in an early episode of Imposter Women. So I'm going to not give a shameless plug here, but there's a lot of great, I think, communities out there. Masterminds are just one way you can form community around yourself. And really that's the goal in a mastermind, is to find a community of people who are going to help you and help you succeed. And there are so many ways to do that. So I would say definitely lots of different Chamber of Commerce groups that I've been a part of or have put on in the past. I've also been part of young professionals groups. Many of those have been through a Chamber of Commerce, but some of those are standalone. It just depends on what your community looks like. Leads groups are a great like referral network that you can use. Women in business groups I've found to be really helpful. But I think like my plug for anybody looking for this kind of community, there's so many great places to find it. So I would definitely say, like, first of all, check your local or regional chamber of commerce. They are going to have lots of resources for you. Some of them are going to be for members. It might be worth investigating, but a lot of them are going to be for non-members too. So you can take a look and see where you might find some value that way. Meetup has tons of options. Sometimes you'll find the same groups that the chamber has on Meetup. There'll be some crossover. The other place that you can find groups like this is going to be your local community calendar. And I would say those are going to look different in every community. They're local, but places, sometimes there'll be a standalone website. Sometimes, many times, radio stations host the community calendar. So if you know what your local radio station is, you can find great links or other group referrals through there. Your chamber might have the community calendar on it. Sometimes your visitors bureau also has it. Your city or municipality website may have links. So I would say find that community calendar wherever it lives. There's a lot of places you might find it that I just gave you. And that's going to give you a great source of what groups are out there that you might be able to really find.
Yep. Whoa, that is some gold right there, Jesse. For everyone listening, you might want to rewind 30 seconds and take notes, because that is some gold, and some of those resources I haven't even looked into. So fantastic.
I could keep going on that. So I'll breathe for a minute. Let somebody else jump in.
Yeah, I would say some of the groups that I found to be really helpful is just throughout school. So whether you're just out of high school, entering college, community college, a lot of your universities and local schools have great resources. I know I always get the local community college calendar of things going on, and they have different classes to get involved in at a pretty lower rate compared to a university price. But it could be a place where you can meet people that are like-minded that also are maybe starting businesses at a different time in life. That's not the quote unquote normal time to be starting a business. So all different age groups. I love looking at the alumni groups. Anything that you're a part of, I did Peace Corps in the background or in my background. So I use a lot of Peace Corps resources, and they have great resources to for return volunteers and helping out with different business ideas and such. The other one, I think, I don't know, Mel, if you have alluded to this one yet, but is the oh, I'm just drawing a blank on it now. Sorry, it's the Small Business Association.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
score.
Score. Yes, thank you. And I think they have that in all the bigger cities and whatnot. I'm currently in Valdosta, and our closest one is probably about an hour away. But they have tons of free videos and webinars and live trainings that you can tune into. So I've been looking and dabbling into that. So those are just some of the ones that I would recommend.
Yeah, and there's SCORE is such a good one. There's also the Small Business Development Center. Those are also nationwide. They're many times hooked through a university, so you may have to dig a little bit to find them, but they're federally funded. So if you're in the United States, there's a Small Business Development Center somewhere near you, and there's a SCORE somewhere near you for both of those offices. I think for me, one of the important things, because there are so many groups. I mean, the last 3 minutes of this is just a stream of options. So I think one of the things that is important is honestly to think through your goals, because depending on what you want in a group, you're going to choose a different kind of group. So if maybe you're looking for direct referrals for business, you're looking for sources of income, you're probably going to look for something that is more of a referral group or a leads group, something like BNI, like Mel just said, or a very niche or closed networking group you'll see run through different organizations, where it is more limited in scope and you are truly passing leads. So that might be a goal you might have. You might be looking for just like-minded connections. You might be looking for people that are in a similar spot from you. So finding a group of small business owners or a women in business group or young professional group might really fit the bill if that's the goal you're looking for. Or is there maybe a problem that you want to be part of solving? That's something to think about too. In many local communities, there are roundtables that you could be part of that are talking about a specific issue or a specific industry. Or again, some of those more interest group type areas might fit the bill there too. So I would say really think about what community are you looking for and what are your goals? And that's going to help you kind of funnel yourself into one of these vast many options.
I have the luxury of living in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, so the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And this is just like a crazy hub for entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. So I have the luxury of having access to a lot of those great groups. And when I was joining those, I kind of was like, ooh, I don't know anything about business. Like, how do I know what you don't know? And then so I joined these female groups thinking that, like, I would like some friends, some counterparts, some peers to sort of share this experience with and learn from. And then I also joined a co-working space here that has like a lot of networking groups and kind of like meetups and hangouts and workshops online. That was another way for me to find individuals that were sort of my age and that same experience that I could really share my journey with. And that is just one example that came to mind for me of like how our friends listening can actually think about what does that look like in their life, and how they can join those groups. And something else that I just wanted to add was, if you're listening to this and you think, whoa, that's a lot, that's so many resources, just take it slow, join one, and you don't even need to join one, just attend. See if it feels good, see if it's a good fit for you, because trust me, they will not all be a good fit. Certain groups attract certain types of individuals, and that's fine and that's perfect. But if that's not your flavor, then no problem. Try the next one. If it doesn't work for you, then it's not a sign that that isn't for you. It's just a sign you haven't found your people yet. And a lot of these groups are free and or very low cost. So that can be another option too, if you have a limited budget and you're just kind of exploring.
Totally. I was like snapping as you were saying that, Mel, because not only are they often low cost, but even when there is a cost involved, like most, if not all of the groups we've mentioned have really guest friendly policies, or even truly like a guest policy where you can attend so many times as a visitor to try it out before you make a commitment. So definitely go and just test the water, kind of see what fits.
Yeah, and a lot of times in these groups, there's different progressions too of how much you want to get involved, how much you want to partake in. So, going as a guest and then maybe eventually working up to taking on a role and meeting more people are definitely things to consider as you join the groups. But like both Jesse and Mel said, no pressure. I'm one that joins multiple groups. I'm always joining groups and checking out different things. And I've definitely learned that there's a lot that don't fit my niche and what I want, and they're not what I expected. And it also varies from town to town. So maybe you're living in one area and you attend something and it's really not right for you, but you move. Like all of us are in a moving phase right now. And maybe you try that group out again wherever you're going in the next place, because that could be a totally different experience than what you had in the first location that you were at. That's definitely something I'm learning as I'm moving throughout my life.
Yeah. Man, and like very much to that note too, Lauren, like, I mean, the title of this podcast is Imposter Women. So like we're all about to be in new areas. And one thing I know that comes up for me, and I know a lot of other people, is like when you're attending a new group, especially if you don't know anyone, it can be really scary and really intimidating. Like, I know I always am thinking like, oh, I want people to like me and I don't want to like, I'm going to figure out how to work the room. And especially if you are attending a group where a lot of people know each other, it can be a little tricky to break in sometimes. But I would just say, like, remember when you're visiting a new group or trying it out, just remember that everyone is nervous, or everyone was at some point. Like everybody was new at some point in the history of that group. And that like imposter feeling that you feel creeping up as you're driving to that group or getting ready to log on Zoom or whatever it is, it's totally normal. And half the group probably also feels that, because it can be a little bit uncomfortable to put yourself out there. So I would just say, like, keep in mind that plenty of other people feel what you feel, and they're also there for the same reasons. Like, people are there because they have the same goal. They want to find like-minded individuals. They want to help find leads for their businesses and see it flourish. So if you can just like remind yourself hey, we're all figuring it out. We all are here because we have the same goals. If they were kabillionaires and they didn't need community, they wouldn't be here. So you're in the right place. And I think just reminding yourself that we're all feeling those same things.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely from my experience, speaking from my experience, like right now in real time, like I've already thought about that when I for my move, like because I'm going to be doing that whole coastal living beach move, and I worry about access to groups, but the great thing in 2022 is that all of these, if well, maybe not all, but most of them are virtual meetings, and some will have the option of in person. So even if you are listening and you think, well, I don't live in a big city, I don't have traditional access that others would think about, that there are still so many options available online, and you don't need to be in that physical region to be part of that virtual networking group or that mastermind or a community like Jessie was saying.
100%. And Meetup is such a good place for that. I know, Lauren, you use Meetup a lot. So if anybody has never tried that, it's a great way to find groups anywhere in the world that are going to fit your goals, and you can filter really easily for what those goals are.
Fantastic. So that sort of gives a bit of a background on what a mastermind is, what it looks like, and what does it mean to meet regularly with like-minded folks where you can actually start to tangibly discuss your dreams and goals and help each other to execute on them and keep each other accountable. So, we talked about setting up a mastermind can be super, super easy. All it takes is you reach out to your network, some friends or some people you know in your life, and see who's interested, see who is ambitious and loves setting goals and expectations and meeting regularly. So you would be incredibly amazed at the results. And just knowing that everyone wants to help you, and when you come from a place of support and caring, that there is no competition, because when we all achieve greater things, then we all are better for it. And there are, so many different ways to talk about how to support each other and how to find these like-minded women on your business journey. So definitely do not be shy when you're meeting new friends. And remember that people want to help other people. We're all here for a reason. And community can be so nourishing that it really pays to be in a community like this. So we mentioned that support groups and finding them are easy. It's as simple as a quick Google search and then find what's available in your area. Try a few groups to see if they're a good fit, and just rinse, repeat, and keep going until you find the people that really speak to you and that will provide that supportive community for you. And if you feel like you haven't found those people, then by all means, start your own mastermind group. It's really, really that simple. And you would be amazed at the amazing things that you can achieve. And we know that you can, because we've done it too. So it's absolutely possible for you. So in the show notes of this episode, we want you to go and check out the first template we have for you. It's going to be a template on how to create your own mastermind. So we actually put this together based on how we run our own mastermind, and we love it. It's been really great for us. We made a podcast out of it, in addition to multiple businesses. So not saying that's going to happen for you, just saying that it's possible. So go and check in the show notes. That's available. And then let us know. Reach out to us on social. Send us a message and let us know if you start a mastermind, how it's going for you. How did you find your people? And what do you talk about? We love hearing from our community.
We're cheering for you.
You got this.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Imposter Women. You can visit the episode description to find all of the show notes from today's episode. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, or Stitcher. Subscribing will keep you from missing an episode, and it helps us grow Imposter Women. Be sure to tune in next week as we continue to help you chase your dreams unapologetically. See you on the next episode of Imposter Women.